text we know probably is My Country 'Tis of Thee, or that tune and hymn. But let's think of it today as Hymn of the Week, as in God Save Our Gracious King. Welcome to today's Hymn of the Week, which is ELW 408, Come Thou Almighty King. I'm going to give us 3 points about the text and then 3 points about the music. Now the first one is we see the text, source unknown. I pretty much would agree with that. There are some theories, and one of them is what I just played for the opening, God Save Our Gracious King. Is it God Save Our Gracious King? Yes, by Charles Wesley. Now, why would Wesley be connected to this? Well, the reason is the unknown source that this is, or the text unknown source, was found in a 4-page pamphlet around 1757 with one of the hymns by Charles Wesley. This text was titled Hymn to the Trinity. So the next point is some scholars believe because Charles Wesley found this text with it, that Wesley maybe wrote a parody on God Save Our Gracious King with Come Thou Almighty King. Now I don't find so much humor in this parody, but I do think it is possible that this text could actually be by Charles Wesley. It's pretty easy to sing. It's also really well written, much like Love Divine Loves that's selling in some of his other texts that we find in the hymnal. So that's a great reminder. The other thing is we have biblical metaphors and imagery, my third point, that suggests that the church remains countercultural. It reminds us that no person, agency, or state is the ultimate, but Christ the King is the ultimate. So it certainly could have been composed, the text at least, as a response to God Save Our Gracious King. 1757, so we know at that time it was classical period if we're looking from the music history. Some people, because we usually define the Baroque ending at 1750 with the death of Johann Sebastian Bach. So some of the biblical metaphors we find in here. How about Almighty King, Glorious Father, Ancient of Days, Incarnate Word, Merciful and Mighty Lord, Holy Comforter, Spirit of Power, Great One and Three. Of course, bringing that Trinity back into play. How about some points about the music now? We see the music was written, or the tune, by Giardini, and also probably Baroque or classical. We can't say that for sure, but we have the dates of the composer here. Giardini was a famous violinist, and he was a well-known and greatly skilled violinist. He was born in Turin, and then he was also a chorister at the cathedral in Milan. So the next point I want to make is there were 4 tune names that are often linked to this. The first is Italian hymn. You can imagine why it's called Italian hymn because of the composer. We also have Moscow, which would refer to the place of the composer's death in 1796. We also have Trinity because it relates to the text. And we also have Giardini, the actual composer. But most well-known is Italian hymn. And here's a great feature of this hymn. Last point I want to make before we sing it is there's internal repetition. So we have a form of A, B, C, D, D, E, F. So if we look at measure 9, we have internal repetition, where the line just repeats itself. So what's really neat about that internal repetition is that the chords change. The melody, of course, stays the same. And usually we see that repetition in other spots of a hymn, but here we get to see it in the center or in the middle, again, offering that praise to the King. So it's interesting how these two met each other, these texts and this tune. We don't know all the background about it, but I think I've given you at least some insight, hopefully that will help as we sing. And before we start, I do want to mention one feature that I don't usually do, but this is a great hymn for it, to remind us that Jesus is our foundation. In the last verse of the hymn, To Thee Great One and Three, the hymn tune, the actual melody, will be in the pedal, so not in the manuals. And so that will be a little different. So listen for that. So here we go. I like putting that G in there because it reminds us that Jesus has the last word of come thou almighty King, and not the state. Definitely puts a new view, if that theory is actually true, that Wesley wrote it as a parody. That being said, I want to thank R.G. Huff, Derek Reams, and Kathy DeRouse. I've been using their material for the introduction. The last hymn, really well composed by Derek Reams, and then also the final tag by Kathy DeRouse. Thank you very much for listening to Hymn of the Week.